All right, for this last tutorial and this last synthesis method that we're going to look at a version, I would say a quasi-granular synthesizer. Reason does not have a true granular synthesizer. They do exist, but granular synthesis is not really common. You can find some devices that use it, and as the book says, you can do granular synthesis using some other computer programs. But Reason has a device that gives us the flavor of granular synthesis combined with wavetable synthesis. And that device, I'm going to add to the rack here right now, is called Maelstrom. We looked at it, or we saw a Reason produced demo tutorial about Maelstrom. This is what it looks like. Again, it's set to load with a preset. I'm going to get rid of that preset. I'm going to reset the device. Again, I just right-clicked on it. And now here is kind of the generic, kind of plain vanilla default sound. You can see that it's got two oscillators. There's an oscillator here, which has its own dedicated envelope generator, attack, decay, sustain, release, and a volume control. And there's a second oscillator, which is currently turned off. Okay, so there are your two sound sources. There are envelope generators dedicated to each oscillator. There are two filters. There's filter A over here with its envelope generator, and then there's a second filter down here, filter B. And those are both state variable filters, low pass, band pass, combs, and amplitude modulation filter. Kind of interesting. And this second filter has the same modes. There's also something on Maelstrom called a shaper. You can think of that as sort of a distortion unit in a way. What it does is it adds different types of distortion. Distortion we often think of as noise, but what distortion also is additional harmonic content. So you can add distortion to add some more harmonic content and change the sound of the processed signal after it runs through a filter. I'm not sure that made much sense. Let me take another stab at it. It can be heard as distortion, or it can just add harmonic content that will eventually treat with the filter. That you notice if you follow the signal flow here, there are little arrow looking things in the paint here. So this one oscillator can go straight to the shaper and then to the filter if we like. We have to turn that shaper on and turn the filters on and off with the little buttons here. Same thing with the oscillators. You can turn them on or off with those yellow buttons. Right? We could route the output of oscillator A to this shaper, or we could send it down to filter B. Right? So there, if you look closely at the paint, the graphics on the front panel, you can kind of figure out the signal flow. There are also these two modulators. Now they're interesting modulators. They can be thought of kind of like an LFO. There are different waveforms, and you can route that modulation to different destinations. These knobs here are the three destinations. I can send it to the pitch, the index, or the shift of either oscillator A or B or both. That's what this knob here is for. I can synchronize the speed of this waveform, this LFO type modulation, to the sequencer tempo if I like, or I can leave that off and adjust the rate, the speed here with the rate knob. You'll notice that these two modulators have different destinations, which is kind of interesting. So you can have them do different things. And they both also have a button that says one shot. One shot will let this modulator cycle once through whatever that selected waveform is and then stop. So right now, if you look at this waveform that I have selected in modulator A, if I were to route that to both oscillators and turn pitch all the way up, when I play a note, the pitch is going to jump up, slide down, and then eventually get back to the original pitch. Let's see if we can hear that. Okay, yeah, it's dropping. Let's engage one shot. So when I play it, the increase in pitch is so fast I don't really perceive it. I hear a long drop, and then below the pitch it's going to end on, and then it jumps up. Let's try it one more time. Let's try a couple of different shapes. Maybe I'll lessen the amount. Again, I'm just playing one note. But we hear a high pitch, a low pitch, and then back to the resting pitch, which is kind of in between. So once you get used to doing this sort of thing, here's a random waveform. If I adjust that or send that to the pitch, it almost sounds like an arpeggiator or something, right? So that's how these modulators work. Again, they can be one shot, or if you turn one shot off, it'll just act kind of like an LFO. It'll keep cycling through. Again, adjust the rate like you would an LFO. Okay, so that's basically the signal flow. Now let's talk about what granular synthesis is. Again, sound source, envelopes, filters, modulators. But what's granular synthesis all about? You probably read in the book, I hope you have, that true granular synthesis, you can, I think of it this way. It's as if you sample some sound and then you break up that sample into tiny, tiny, tiny little bits. And you can rearrange the order of those little samples. You can choose to ignore little grains of that sample, rearrange them, play them in different orders, etc. So how does Maelstrom, how does it work as a granular synth? Well, it's granular and it's a wavetable synth. If I click in this field, you can see it's a wavetable. Lots and lots of different waveforms that I can use as a starting point for my sound. That's wavetable synthesis. What makes it granular is these controls here. I'm going to give you an example. I'm going to choose this sound, which is called throat. And I'll just play a single note. Can you hear? It sounds like a person saying A-I-O-U, and it keeps moving and moving and moving. The reason it keeps moving through those different vowel sounds is because the motion is turned on. I can speed up or slow down how quickly it moves through those different vowels by adjusting the motion knob. Moving much more slowly. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to take the motion and turn it all the way to the left. And now it's not moving at all. Okay, so what else is going on? What makes this granular? The thing that makes this similar to granular synthesis is that I can choose what part of that complete sample I want to work with. I've got the motion set to not move, and now I can move this index slider. Kind of sounds like ooh. sounds like E. More like O. So that's granular synthesis, sort of. You know, and you can do other things, like you can have this modulator adjust that index if I like. Almost sounds like the word wow, wow, wow. Okay, that was a brief introduction to Graintable, which is the closest thing we have at Harbor College to granular synthesis. I hope it gives you some idea of the process. Similar processing, granular synthesis. You move through the different grains of a sample, and then you can choose different starting points and end points and loop points and adjust the change the order of the grains, that sort of thing. And it's just another method for creating a starting point for a synthesizer patch. And with that, we're finished with our different tutorials on synthesis methods. I hope you learned something.